I drove by this shopping center recently, and I'm sure a lot of people are like, well, it's just a shopping center. It's not anything particularly interesting. Well, it is to me. But I just noticed driving by here that this place is looking really neglected, and as you can see, all of this stuff is closed according to Google here, and both the times I was by this place, there was no cars in the parking lot. There were weeds coming up through the pavement. And what I'm thinking is that there's imminent danger of this shopping center being torn down. And I always this is a place that I like the architecture of this place because it's so strange. Like you've got a 50s era. I think this whole thing was built in the 50s, but you've got a very 50s looking building here. And then I don't know if it was some point later or what, but they at some point they put these wooden boards on here. And in whatever era it was when they started doing these mansard roofs in front of buildings, which I think that was the 70s or so they started doing that. Whenever they decided to start doing that, they stuck these wooden boards on everything. And I've always thought this was the most interesting. This was one of the more interesting looking places I've seen with these wooden boards on here. And you can see they're quite worse for wear at this point. Um, but I like the wooden boards. I like the weird janky signage. I like the fact that on this building it was crooked and like sagging in the middle here. I just thought it was so interesting. And I don't know I'm trying to figure out what that sign said here. I think whatever it was, it probably wasn't there. Like bar. I remember this place. I don't know if it was still there. Like 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 most recently, but yeah, it looks like now this has uh definitely been changed over time. Like you can see, they actually did keep the mansard here, which is kind of surprising. They would have had to actually, because of the wood that was on it was in such bad condition, they would have had to actually like rebuild a new mansard on the front of this, which is kind of surprising to be honest. I thought they would have, because every place it like having a mansard isn't like it's like not cool anymore. So every place is getting rid of their mansards, and so it surprised me that they actually put another mansard on here after they took all this wood off. Because you can see this wood is not suited for this would not be suited to support like a new material being put on the front of it. But like all like I think at this point, just because like these have been remodeled in such a way that they're not really particularly interesting to look at. The thing that I find the most sad is maybe this building going, because I like I'm not the biggest fan of 50s modern or like 50s art deco stuff, but I do like it. And I kind of hate to see it go. And that's something you don't see anymore, where buildings are kind of built and they stay the way they are for a long time and are like kind of slowly altered over time and added on to anymore. Like really a lot of what they do now is if they want to build something new, they just tear it down and start over, and that tends to be the mentality of it. And you don't tend to see it in like town centers as much anymore. But I know in the 90s, like up to the 90s, there was a lot of that going on in American cities where they would just tear down everything and just start over. But you see it a lot here, And this used to be a road I really enjoyed driving on just because of the fact that there was a lot of like older motels and things on here that were just very interesting to look at. Um, but like a lot of those are gone now. Like there used to be several 50s era motels in this area and some older ones. You can see I've never seen a Cartoon Network hotel. I don't know if this is a chain or if this is the only one, but they have the really they have the newer cartoons on here, which kind of make me want to perform a lobotomy on myself. But um just the architecture though, man. The architecture. I hate the architecture. Now this wasn't anything particularly great to begin with, but I like the stone and the weird looking roof and stuff. Like every place has got to have this just big tall front section now. And the thing is, you walk in here and it's like walking into a bus station. It's a big empty room with a high ceiling. It's nothing really all that impressive. And then they of course stick metal onto it and just these ugly windows near the roof. The shopping mall by me looks exactly the same as this. I'm not even joking. Every place looks like that now. And it's another thing where up here, like some of these were on the register of historic places. Like this one was on the historic register, and there was actually another motel next to it, but I don't think Google Street View goes far enough back. Yeah, it doesn't go far enough back to show it, but there was another older 50 style motel here. Now, this isn't the best example of well, it's not even an example of a 50s motel anymore. But it's not the best example because it's not the most impressive place, but it's another thing where you don't see these kind of low key places anymore, which are just kind of like something relatively simple and not pretentious, uh, and just like approachable. It's all these huge buildings now. I don't know why buildings like this make me really anxious to go to, like hotels, because the bigger places tend to get, the more easily you fall through the cracks and I don't know. There's just something about these big places that just makes me anxious. And it's such a disgusting building. What it reminds me of is a mixture between a new office building and a new elementary school. Because what they do is they build this really ugly, boxy building and they stick a bunch of colors on it, and that's supposed to make it cheerful looking. They did the same thing in the 60s, and most of those buildings are being torn down now, so. But even the name kind of sucks. I don't know what this is supposed to mean, Shrew by Hilton. Like, when I think of Hilton, I think of something, less ugly. Like something that doesn't look like that. It's just shit architecture, it really is. And whenever I travel, I tend to look for I try to look for a smaller like local hotel to go to. This is another one that's on the this is the one I was talking about that's on the historic register. And I wouldn't be too bothered if they tore all this down because this has all been altered to the point where there's not much historical value anymore. But you've got this really nice center building here, and it's one of those places I would really like to see kind of kept. I don't know if this was something else before it was a motel, but it's a very nice looking building, and this architecture dates back to the at least as far back as the 20s. So this might be a 1920s era motel, and that would be sort of at the beginning of the whole motel craze. This freaking damn truck. Um, the motel to the right of it, I don't know what this would have I don't know how this has been altered over time. Like, I assume this would have been a one-story building originally, and what they do with a lot of these motels is they like later on they'd stick a second story on, and it's kind of funny because the second story would actually be like indoor. Like you can see there's no exterior entrances on the upper floor, but there is there are still exterior entrances downstairs. Um, even but this whole remodeling stuff and making it look totally soulless and corporate is not it's not a new thing. As you can see, this is probably a 1980s or 90s era remodel here. But strange thing is they remodeled all this, but they left the house portion the same, and it's got this nice neon sign on the front of it. I don't know what the name of it was. um, but very beautiful building, very nice. That car was still there when I went by it last time. It was over in this section of the parking lot here with four flat tires. This is a nice place to eat right here. I think it's something different now, but I remember the food was all right. But it's kind of expensive. So if you want something on the cheaper end, I wouldn't suggest it. Must have been farms behind here, and they built the shopping center behind where the old motel would have been. Yeah, there's lots of trees here. That's another thing they've been doing a lot of is buying up a lot of land and sort of converting it into and like just basically leveling it, and not just leveling it, like not just tearing everything down and clearing the land, but like um like actually leveling it so that it's all flat, and then like that's another thing I hate about the way they build modern stuff now is they don't build to the layout of the land. They they totally flatten it and level everything out so that it's just like everywhere else, and that's one of the worst things about American style development. And I don't tend to criticize like sir I like the suburbs. Like I'm not one of these new urbanists that absolutely hates the suburbs and thinks everybody should live in a shoebox. Like I love the suburbs. You can see right here though some more of the remodel. Like you've got this nice sort of well, it didn't, it looked better before when it still had the windows and stuff, but even in this state, I think it looked way better than the new building that they built. They've gotten really into this box architecture that like and just building every building to look like this, just all boxes, and I'm so tired of it, man. This is all wasted space up here. This is a big empty space and it has no purpose other than maybe sticking a sign on. I just like the old one's so much better. And it's not a particularly interesting place like as it is, but they look, this is the wastefulness of the US. There was no reason to tear this down. And they just tore it down, wasted all the materials and built their ugly ass new shopping center. I could be wrong. It could be the same building, but I don't know. I'm trying to see if there's any way of like, because these windows here are in the same. Oh, I thought they were in the same. Maybe we can go back a little bit and I don't know. Usually when they do these, like this might be the same building and they just remodeled it. Either way, it looks way worse. But what they've been doing, like just the same. It's just like everywhere else, man. I don't like it. I really don't. I don't like there's buildings like this near like in my area. Like you like to be able to escape your area once in a while and see an area where stuff's a little bit different. And you just don't get that anywhere in the U.S. because all these like suburban areas are like all these suburban strip malls are run by big corporations that really don't give a shit about making their architecture like local or anything like that. Building to like local and regional stuff. It's like our whole culture in the U.S. has been kind of hijacked by corporations that want you to think a certain way and believe certain things, and it's all for the sake of making I don't know, making people easier to govern or whatever. Like people don't some people don't realize, and is just how much like you how much how much their opinions are swayed by media and things. Like they can stick something on TV and be like, this is the next new style and this is the new hot style and you've got to remodel and make everything in your house look like this, and people will do it. Like heck, my family, which my parents have always had a preference for the colonial revival stuff, and even they jumped on the trend uh of just like buying like a sectional sofa that's like a gray sectional sofa and getting like gray curtains and stuff, and like that's the new style. Everybody's got to do the new thing, and the new thing is boxy ugly shit. I wonder if it's something to do with people's kind of increasingly nihilistic outlook on things. They just like, they want their surroundings to look as miserable as they feel. Man, this place has gotten emptied out, huh? We used to go shopping in the strip mall a lot when I was younger. Like my mom liked to come up here and go to the what is it called? The glass company. I forget the name of it. Corelware, like Corel stuff. You know, the stuff that's like break resistant. My mom liked to go up here to buy it because they had an outlet here and you could get it for cheaper. I don't know if that outlet is still there or not, but but she would always buy it. She would always buy it there. But this is a nice. This is what I would say is a W, like a big W in terms of architecture, because you've got the nice cedar shingles and the brickwork and like all the other you've got that. You've got a lot of landscaping, um, trees, things like that. Oh, that's sad. I hate to see diners close because I love diner food. And I love American food. Everybody else is getting really into like the ethnic food, and I'm like, man, just give me a good diner. Like don't give me all this like overpriced like ethnic crap. I just want American food. Just give me a burger. I have a friend who literally thinks that like Olive Garden's the best thing ever, and if you live in an area with mom and pop Italian restaurants, you have no business eating at Olive Garden. And I ate there again recently. I've eaten there many times, and every time I've eaten there, like my experience there is always like basically meh. It's not a great restaurant. It really isn't. And you can go to a family-owned Italian place and get way better food for the same price. This is a cool place. Like, I'm wondering when they're gonna ruin it because they've ruined everything else in this area. So I wonder when they're gonna ruin the old Steamboat hotel. Like I love this chintzy shit. One thing I do appreciate is they kept the trees here whenever they built this. Like these are obviously old trees that kind of predate it. I think these ones might be on their way out though. But I always am kind of concerned whenever I love this road, and the thing is, whenever I like something, people tend to ruin it. So I'm like, this is such a nice drive up here through all these Amish farms and these little roadside businesses. So like, when are they gonna do something to ruin it? When are they gonna ruin all this and build like developments all along it? Just turn it into another suburban crap hole. And again, I don't hate suburbs as a concept. I actually love. I think there's a lot of positive, like uh, like attributes to suburbs. I just think that they need to be laid out a bit better and have more interesting architecture. This is a place I've always wanted to eat at. And like, the thing is, in this area, there is an abundance of very good restaurants like here. There's so many different places to eat that whenever you come up here, it's like you always see places that you want to eat, and it's like you have your places that you love dining at, and so you're like, you can't justify stopping it at like every place because of that. But this is one of those places I've always wanted to eat at. Like, this is an actual real like 1950s era diner here. And like, even to the point where it's advertised that there's air conditioning on this little neon sign here, and that sign works too. Like, I always like that. It's kind of funny now because everything is air conditioned, but back in the 50s, there was air conditioning was actually relatively rare. Like, most people didn't have central AC in their homes, and like uh like, if you wanted to put an air conditioner like in your home, it was some big chunky window unit that weighed like 1,000 pounds. But this is such a nice drive along here. It's such a pretty area. And you've got all these tiny little hotels along here. Like, you can see this one is very, very small. And like, I even mistook it as a house when I went by. And I love places like this. The these will be your most interesting experiences on the road, will be hotels like this. Now, I would say look up reviews for places before you go to, because some of those motels are real flea bag ones. Like, not all of them are nice, but this is another one I thought was really fascinating. Like, another one of those ones you could almost miss. I would bet that whoever operates this bar is the one that's doing the sheets and stuff in this motel. And this is an old motel, man. This could be 100 year. This could be 100 years old, just going off design alone, because these little tiny ones that were only a few rooms like this in these wooden buildings, these are really old motels. Like, this would be early days of the automobile like motels. And that would be another place I would love to stop at and see, because I love hole in the wall places. I love these little interesting local hole in the wall places. I would I would much rather go to one of them than go to any chain restaurant. And with the number of them in this area, like, you would never run out. And of course, you got the signature places. You got the doll outlet here, and I'll show you a few more of these places along here, because there's some really interesting ones. There's actually a windmill one that I want to show that's like, it's a tourist trap, but it's an interesting tourist trap. And all these little Amish like markets and things. Like, this is Amish country here. All these farms are Amish farms. You can even see the horse-drawn wagons out here. They don't use machinery, or they don't use modern tractors and modern machinery. They just, like, and the amount of technology is very minimal on these farms. You will see like solar panels on them. Like, and like, they will use gas powered things sometimes, but like, most of the other stuff is all horse drawn stuff. It's really fascinating, and when you come out to this area, there's such a it's a really crazy, like, interesting contrast when you see the horse-drawn wagons going along the side of this road next to like modern cars. Old gas station I liked here. This would have been where the gas pumps were. Car dealership now. But there's a few of those old gas stations. This is another place I keep meaning to eat at. Um, I love buffets, and this area has a lot of very good buffets. And this is one of them. This is not one that I've been to. I want to go to it eventually, but see some nice trees here, some nice outdoor seating, a lovely place. Some more very nice architecture here. But that's the kind of architecture where this is not these buildings are not particularly old, at least not this one or this one over here. This is probably 60s era, this building here, but most of the other ones are new, or else the architecture they have now is new. And this is not like, I like this sort of architecture. And I like it, so I'm wondering when I'm gonna drive by and it's some big ugly boxy thing. But this was probably 90s era that this was all remodeled, and it's still a nice looking building. Like, not everything made in the past 30, 40 years is ugly. Just a good portion of it. There's another place called Deemer's that I'll show you too. Deemer's is a nice like here it is, Deemer's restaurant here. And this is a nice 60s era building here. You can tell by the stonework in the windows. But this is another buffet. And it's decent food. The food is a little bland, but they make up for it with their desserts. Their desserts are so good. And this is the place I was talking about that looks like a windmill here. Um, this is mainly touristy stuff, but you can get like homemade root beer and things here. It's not cheap, crappy tourist stuff. It's actual decent quality, like locally made things. Like it's not crap. It's all local Amish made stuff. But the funny thing is, I remember eating here, and apparently I was mistaken because this place had a restaurant in it, but it hasn't had a restaurant since the early 70s. So when I talked to the woman here, and I talked to the woman here, I'm like, hey, didn't you guys used to have a restaurant here? And she told me that. She told me they hadn't had a restaurant since like 1971. And I'm like, wow, okay, I must have been mistaken. It's cool though, and it's cool to see this at night because this is all lit up. And same with this nice sign here. This is all lit up. And I've been meaning to go back here to get a bottle of that root beer and see if it's any good because I love root beer. You can get your Amish furniture here. And a lot of these are just like like all these roads go through these little towns along here. It's a very nice drive. Sometimes the traffic is pretty bad, but that's the trade-off for having these nice kind of country roads here. I don't know. I look at it and I hope that they never do major work like widen this or anything, because that would make me really sad if all this was torn down and this just became another highway. We have plenty of highways. We don't need another, like, we expressways, I should say. We have plenty of expressways. We do not need more. If anything, I think people it would be better if we had more just regular roads. Uh, these barns are cool. This is called a Pennsylvania style barn, and it's kind of like, these are very common in the Northeast, and you'll see these all over this area. Um, very classic style barns were built from the 1700s up till the turn of the century, and then they started building the classic ones you see that look like this. Obviously not exactly like this, bigger and stuff, but this style roof. But these are the original ones that they build all over the place. And this stone wall here, this stone wall is like 2 feet thick. Like they weren't messing around when they built these things. And even a lot until recently, a lot of the there's a couple local convenience store chains that their buildings were built to look like this because this is such an iconic piece of local architecture. And it's another one of those things where you're not going to see people building structures like this anymore. So it should like these should be cherished as they are, and in as many cases as possible, saved and reused for other things because these are amazing structures. They really are. And it's kind of funny the way they're built. On this side, you'll actually have a ramp up to the second story, which is where all the hay would be stored, and like this was the area where they would actually separate out the hay and stuff like that. And then on the lower floor would be where your animals would be down here. And that was accessed from the back. And they always had this overhang on them. I'm not sure if it has a specific purpose, but this floor always extended out a bit and overhung this side of the barn. Just I don't know. I always found these barns really interesting. And each one is slightly different, like because they were built just by like they were built by local farmers, and so they didn't always look exactly the same. This is a really impressive church here. There's a lot of beautiful churches along this road too. It's kind of funny because you're in Amish country, and you think because you're in Amish country, everything would be that kind of like because they're literally called plain people. Like they prefer things to look very plain, and so you would think that everything would be built that way, but no, there's different types of people out here. And the non-Amish people liked, what the architecture of the day, which when most of these buildings was built was Victorian, so it was all very elaborate architecture. Another old gas station here. I love these old gas stations, I really do. Um, it's got the old school textured cinder block walls here. This is actually a big one. They weren't usually this big. This still has one of the original doors on this left side here. These old sliding doors. They were probably done away with real quick because these would they would kind of take up a bit of space when they were folded away, and it was just much easier to deal with the track doors. But yeah, old school garage here. This is where your gas pumps would have been right here, and it probably would have been full service like most like garages were back then. So you'd have the attendant standing out here waiting to help you, waiting to fill up your car for you. And this is an inspection station apparently. Pennsylvania is interesting because it doesn't have a DMV as it were like a lot of states have, where it's a big centralized building. In Pennsylvania, it's 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 shops. Like when you need to get your car inspected, you take it to a shop that's registered with the state as an inspection station. And I kind of like that system a bit better, to be honest, because there's a ton of different places you can take your car to for inspection, and presumably some of them are corrupt and will pass your car even though it doesn't pass inspection. And I like the idea of that. I like the idea that you could shop around and find a place that'll pass you. I don't know if that's actually the case. It's probably easier said than done, but that's Pennsylvania is but that's the way they're set up though. You take your car to a garage to get it inspected. In my state, it's not that way. We have a DMV, unfortunately, and I hate going there, even though they've really gone leaps and strides in improving the local DMV, and now you can get through there very quick, but I still hate going there, man. It's always anxiety inducing having to go there, and like, cause I've been failed for stupid shit like a brake bulb being out, and I'm like, like you can't just let it go. Like that's so stupid, man. I hate the DMV so much, and they'll fail you over really stupid shit. This is a nice place. The food is good, kind of expensive. Um, this is where you go if you want a really nice meal, is what I'm saying. The food is it's very tasty food, but it's expensive. It's a nice place though. I liked eating there. They've got this nice the interior is all done in colonial style, or at least there's colonial it's colonial inspired, and so it's a really cool atmosphere, and the food's really high quality, and it's kind of they have a they they built a hotel off of it, and these are the rooms for the hotel back here, and they kept it in the same style as the house, and if you remember that barn I showed you not too far back, you can see a bit of a resemblance here, which I really appreciate. Like that's why I like these like local hotels a lot better. And yeah, I don't know if yeah, I guess this is the Revere House, and this is just the tavern here. But you can see something nice about this part of the U.S. Like we have a lot of history here, and this it looks like a date of 1790. And you don't have that in a lot of the US. A lot of especially out west, you won't really see much out west that was built before 1900, because a lot of it was developed in the late 1800s and early 1900s, and so like almost everything out there will be from later than that. Like you really don't get the history like you get in this area. And the layouts of the towns is totally different. Like there's a lot more sort of because this was much earlier. A lot of the layouts of the towns were just kind of like they fell where they fell, and they were just extended when they needed to be, and just wherever people felt like building roads and things. So there's a lot more there's a lot more sort of interesting of a streetscape here, whereas you tend to like out in the Midwest and the far west, you get a lot of places where it's everything's just a grid and it's like wide roads, but in this local area, like you don't have that. It's a lot of small windy roads. Um, I like it. But I had a friend come over who's from the Midwest, and he was like horrified, even just being driven on the roads by me, and like it was like nothing to me. I was used to it, but like I grew up here, so I'm used to these narrow roads. And but he was like it freaked him out. Like he was genuinely afraid. Like it was kind of funny. But I do love these towns in PA though. Here's another like these are like this is another old gas station here. I want to say this was built in the 1920s. Yeah, yeah, I'll say 1910s or 1920s this was probably built. And still open as a gas station, which is really cool to see. There's actually one in the college town by me too, but they don't have gas pumps anymore. This building might be older, but I don't know because the roof is very much a craftsman style, like 1920s era, like roof. Like earlier buildings had a roof like these houses do, where you had the gable end. Like they didn't have the hipped roof like this. So that I'm gonna say that this building is 1920s era, and this would have had an apartment over it, and it looks like it might still have an apartment over it. Now, in the 1920s or so, you had colonial revival stuff, which this house is looks to be colonial revival. This is colonial revival, specifically Dutch colonial. Um, oh yeah, this house, I love this house here. Look at that, man. Isn't that cool? And not only that, but you've got the ancient oak tree next to it, which just really like completes the picture. This is one of my favorite houses along here. Um, and just quintessential like Victorian architecture here with a little bit of Dutch inspiration here because the Dutch people in this area had a tradition where they would put these like circles on buildings, and I forget the name for them, like hexagrams or hex circles or something like that. But they were these kind of circles here. And now when I say Dutch, and I should specify this, it doesn't literally mean Dutch. It is a corruption of the word Deutsch, which is German. The this region was settled by Germans, and the Amish people are German ancestry. A lot of the local people are German ancestry. When people say Dutch, they actually mean German, and it's kind of confusing. But that's like they called themselves Deutsch when they came over, and so people said, "Oh, Dutch," and so that became a thing where it's like Dutch. It's like no, they're literally German, and a lot of the regional culture comes from German culture, and there's a lot of interesting local cuisines that have their history from certain regions of Germany. And that's the thing. This whole area, this German region of Pennsylvania, it has its own sort of culture, and part of that culture is cuisine that's completely unique to this area. I'm talking shoe fly pie, whoopie pie, which whoopie pies are pretty good. Shoe fly is a bit of an acquired taste, or like it's kind of something that not everybody's gonna like because it's a pie made from molasses, and there's different ways of making it. Like you have it you have ones that are done almost like a crumb cake with like with like crumbs on the top, like a coffee cake. Another nice Victorian looking house here. And you have the version which I like, which is the wet type, which is it's almost like a gelatinous texture, but not quite. I love shoe fly pie. Old school here. I wish they still built schools to look like this. This is a really nice looking building. This used to be like this was like a flea market for a while, and I don't know if they bought it as a community center or if they just happened to have like flea markets there. This is what you'll see in terms of the newer barns that they build. Like this looks to be an Amish built building, but the Amish like to build their buildings like this. And usually you'll see they build everything very plain and very practical. So you won't tend to see a lot of like elaborate architecture on Amish built stuff or Amish built structures. But whenever I mentioned about the barns, how they don't build barns like that other one I showed you, I'm talking about they tend to build them like not quite like this, because this one is a little bit more elaborate. Like they'll be plainer than this. Usually the whole thing will be covered in vinyl siding, or it'll just have the first floor will have the stone on the outside of it. All of these towns are so interesting though. Like I drive out to these areas once in a while just to do kind of like just to do my photography. And you're always finding interesting stuff. Like remember I mentioned the places that yeah, I guess they moved. But this place sells chicken pies now. But it's another one of those places that I've been meaning to try. But like I said, there's so many different restaurants that like that you'll never get to all of them. But I love chicken pot pies, so it's one of those things where I really want to go there and try the chicken pot pie. I'm telling you though, that Pennsylvania Dutch cuisine though, it's so good. It's very hearty food. Like you gotta keep in mind the people here are farmers. Like this cuisine comes from farmers who worked very hard, and many of whom still work very hard. And so their cuisine is very hearty cuisine. A lot of potatoes, a lot of like chicken pies and things. Um, that shoe fly pie I talked about. The funny thing is that wasn't even made. That wasn't originally intended as a dessert. It was actually intended as a breakfast food, which is just really funny to think of. But I mean, we eat pancakes, and pancakes are just are sweet food. Well, I don't eat pancakes anymore. I can't do too many sweets. It just messes uh, with my digestive system too much. I've got to have food that's a little like something. I can't have sweet. I can't have a ton of sweet stuff. So, which is a shame because I love pancakes and French toast and stuff. I really do, and I miss being able to eat that stuff. We're at the 46-minute mark. Should I take this to an hour just to kind of round things out? Like, I'm seriously considering it because I like nice round numbers. But the whole dichotomy between the Amish and modern society, it it's very interesting because you've got this huge, ugly, just obnoxious looking building with an equally obnoxious name, and it's right across the street from this little Amish farm. And I've actually been by here and seen the guy out here tending to his to his animals and stuff. So this is a real Amish farm here, and this is a different style of Pennsylvania bank barn. The kind that everybody knows about are the kind with the stone walls on the sides. This one looks like it's mostly wood though. And you can see the Amish clothesline here. They love these clotheslines here, and you won't just see this in like the Amish areas. You'll see the non-Amish people with clotheslines just like that. The Amish people call the non-Amish people English. And it doesn't matter what your ancestry is. The fancy people are called the English, and that's how they refer to anyone who isn't Amish. So another nice bank barn here. Looking a bit worse for wear, but roof is still solid, so that's a plus. This one actually looks just like the other one, though. It's got the stone walls, but then the bump out is all wood. Though I suppose it would be wood because you couldn't build stone over an overhang like this. Don't know whatever. Don't know what happened to the house. There would have been a house with this probably, but you can see the house is long gone. Maybe it's this house. Amish people are all very friendly, by the way. They're some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. Very, very polite, very good-natured. I've got no complaints about the Amish. So, except that they never clean up the horse crap on that they leave, that the horse-drawn wagons and things leave behind. But I don't know. I don't know. Foundation of an old farm. This road is all new here. It used to be that everybody coming this way, this road was oh, I guess it still is. No, it's this road is all one way, and they built this road around it, I guess to ease traffic congestion on this corner here. I'm not like this is another place where I really didn't like a lot of Like, first off, there's this ugly ass McDonald's. I don't know what McDonald's was thinking when they used this style of architecture. This looks like a warehouse. I like, and I'm not even that big a fan of McDonald's to begin with. I don't eat there anymore, man. Their food actually makes me sick. But but like the final nail in the coffin of never going to McDonald's again was when once they started doing these really horrific remodels on their stores. And you can see this just like you've got this beautiful mountain here, like you've got like all these old houses and things around it, and then you've got this just ugly ass McDonald's, man. I cannot stand it. And another thing they did, and I don't know why they did this, but they tore down this shopping center here, and I thought that was so strange because you've got prime real estate right here on the edge of the highway, and they tore it down. And the thing is, this was still here when they finished widening the road, so they didn't need to tear it down. So I don't know why they did. And it kind of made me sad because like it's another thing where it's like it's not a bad looking building, and it's kind of like the older style building with the peaked roofs that I tend to like. And I know everybody's probably looking at this and screaming like, "Oh, it's just generic, you know, building or whatever." But it's like there's things that I like about it. Like I like the fact that they went with this style of roof because it fits the region, and I like the fact that it was right up against the road because I would prefer that commercial buildings are built right up against the road. I think that's the right way to build them. I don't think you should build miles of parking lot in front of something. But eh, not much that can be done about it, unfortunately. Uh, I was sad to see this place closed, and they have a really nice sign here. But this place was in business for decades, like probably going back to the 60s, just going by the sign here. And they closed recently in the past few years or so, and like it was really sad to see because I like they had good food here. I guess the maybe the management went downhill and they stopped caring about, you know, keeping things up, but they're now selling this all as pad site, which tends to mean that whatever's on it's going to be demolished. So I don't think that whoever buys this lot is going to keep this building and operate another diner. It's probably just going to be torn down, and some generic chain restaurant or business or whatever is going to move here. And so not like I don't hate change. I should say that I don't mind I don't mind change as a concept. I just wish it was positive. Like it seems more often than not that change is negative, and it's not a thing where we're moving forward in a positive way. It's just, you know, oh, the next big thing. And and I don't care what anyone else thinks. I'm gonna, you know, make the next big thing, and it's gonna be the next big thing, and it doesn't matter what local people think about it. It's just gonna be a you know, it's just gonna be a big box thing. This is a nice building here. Love the wood. That's funny that this is a tattoo parlor of all things. It does not look like the type of building you'd have a tattoo parlor in. This is another place I keep meaning to walk around. Is this little town here? It's called Gap, and it's called Gap because there. This is a low mountain range right here. Like this is actually like it's more of a hill than a mountain really, but this is literally a gap in the hill, and that's why it's called Gap. It's not really any more complicated than that. And I keep meaning to come back here and take pictures of the town. It's not a big town, so it wouldn't be something where you'd be like spend a day walking around here or whatever. You'd be able to walk the town in maybe an hour or so. But the most interesting part of Gap, arguably, is the big town clock you have here in the middle, which is a historic landmark, and I think it's around 100 years old. probably older than that. Probably like probably more like 130 years old, something like that. It looks like late Victorian era. I wanted to show an example of the convenience stores, how they're built, how they're built to look like barns. And this is another like local convenience store here, and you can see the kind of barn inspiration. It doesn't look like a Pennsylvania like bank barn. It looks a bit more like a like it's kind of like a mixture of Pennsylvania bank barn and like the kind of traditional, like the type of barns that everybody thinks of when they think of a barn, like a big red barn with the gambrel roof. And ugh, sorry, my legs are hurting. But it's got the Pennsylvania barn colors, like it's got the stone here and stuff. And unfortunately, like a lot of the newer convenience stores, they've kind of moved away from the barn looking stuff. But that's another thing I always liked about a lot of the local convenience stores is that they're built to look like this. I don't know. I like the architecture. I don't like places going with a national trend and just everything kind of looking the same. Like different regions should have unique architectural styles, and it shouldn't be a thing where everything looks the same. Yet another place I've been meaning to stop is this Aunt Jenny's diner here. And it doesn't look like I'll be stopping there anytime soon because this is permanently closed. But I don't know. We drove by here the other day and there were cars in the parking lot, so I don't know if that's actually accurate. There's another restaurant up this way that is another one. I don't know if this is an original barn or if it's a building made to look like one, but I won't complain because I do like the architecture. Even there's mid-century there's like not mid-century 1980s era architecture where they started putting wood on things again, but like it has these kind of windows that are like casement windows. And I actually didn't mind that sort of architecture. That's probably some of the, like, see these types of windows, which leads me to believe that this is probably an 80s or possibly early 90s era building. And I don't mind this style of architecture. I really don't. I like the use of wood and the like casement windows and the like traditional roof line and stuff. And the thing about this architecture, the advantage of it is you can build this in an area with traditional style homes and it will fit in with the community. It won't look out of place. And that's the problem with a lot of the newer style abstract architecture is it's just really boxy and it tends to look really out of place like a sore thumb. Um, but I mentioned the Amish really tend to build like plain buildings, and this would be an example of like the newer style barns that they build. Um, it's you don't see the barn raising like in Amish Paradise, like the Weird Al song. You don't tend to see that anymore. And they still have the same organizational way that they build things. Like they get the whole community together and they'll put this together. And it's really cool to see because you just don't see community cooperation like that anymore. The Amish community is very much a they're 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 very much a communal society. They're not individualistic at all. Like they're a very communal society, and so they do everything together. They have like all the stuff they do together, and it's really interesting to see them build these buildings, even though like it's not the most interesting building to look at, but this would be like a modern style barn here. like what they would build. And you have to keep in mind like what they build, they still use barns the same way that we used barns 100 years ago. And so there's no reason to change up the style very much. And so you've still got the like hayloft area upstairs, and then the area for animals downstairs. And it's just like a two-story structure. And you can see back here is an older barn here. Like this would be the second barn on the property, and back of it you've got this barn, which is I think another bank barn. I think that's a stone wall, but there's a big addition off of it, so you can't really see the front of it very well. That's the type of architecture they like, though. There used to be a tobacco barn here, actually, that was, there you go. This building right here, and they took this apart, and for the longest time I remember they had timber from it all stored here, so I guess they were using the timber for stuff. But this was an old tobacco barn, and you'll still see tobacco barns in Pennsylvania and them actually being used. It's not a thing that they stopped using. Kind of surprised they tore that down. And like no, that was already there. I guess they just decided they weren't going to do tobacco anymore, and so they didn't need the tobacco barn. This is another restaurant up here. Well, I thought it was a restaurant. Yep. This is another place I've been meaning to go to, and just like there's so many different places to stop at that you just can't go to them all. Um, you've got this place right here, which I always thought this place is cool. This is a factory, and it's a factory with the old style. Like this is called a sawtooth roof. And I don't know what this was originally, but now it's like an auto place, and I guess that's like a warehouse that they use to do maintenance on the cars and stuff. Cool building though. See, it's still got original windows and stuff in it, but they not used as a factory anymore. Now it's a body shop, or who knows? Maybe it was always a shop of some kind, and they just had um, like I'll tell you why this style of architecture was popular, though. Um, years about 100 years ago, or probably like 120 years ago now, but about 120 years ago, like before light bulbs were a big thing, like you needed a lot of natural light to light things, and so they would have these buildings designed like this. And the way they would design it was they didn't want it built in such a way that the sun shone directly into these and like blinded people in here. It was like a passive lighting system where the light would actually hit the roof, and the light reflected off the roof was what came into the building. And so that would light up the space, and that was very important because even later on, like when the light bulb was invented and became common, uh, light bulbs were not very bright, and electricity was not always reliable. And so for even after the light bulb, even after artificial lighting came around, these buildings were still built like this, and this sort of lighting was very important. But yeah, once lighting became prominent and reliable enough to where they didn't need these big windows, factories ditched them. And so, like, later factories, probably, oh man, I want to say after the 1930s or 40s, yeah, after the 40s, you stop seeing this. And then, of course, later on, they got like fluorescent lighting and stuff that was like as bright as outside, and you probably know the rest. Nice water tower. Another one of those old motels I was talking about. I like that they matched the house to it. I love the style of roofing here. This roofing was very common in the 60s and 70s, and might have been in the 50s too. But it was steel, and then it had an enamel coating on it that was actually baked onto the roof. And so these roofs have a really long lifespan because of that. And as a result, you still see buildings to this day with these types of roofs on them in the original colors that they are made. And I've seen people try to paint these roofs a different color, and the paint just flakes off because the original paint was so high quality and smooth that nothing sticks to it. And it's a pity they don't make these anymore, because this was a very, very good style of roofing. And of course now I don't think you could even get replacement shingles for this anymore, because I don't think they've made this stuff in years. But I like this little motel though. It always seems very nice from the outside. I don't know, like you see how neat it looks and how it's all color coordinated and stuff. It's got good ratings, and they've got a nice sign. That wouldn't be an original sign. It would have had something different, but I do like the sign. Like like originally you probably would have had some big neon sign out here for this motel. But it looks like that was lost at some point in the past, and they put a backlit sign here, and then of course, fairly recently they got this old school looking sign, which is a very nice sign. And it looks like that motel has really good ratings too, which is nice to see. Because a lot of times, if you're running a motel like that, now the instinct whenever people buy a thing. Oh, here's another cool thing. This old Legion sign here. Look, this is an old it's a neon Legion sign, and not even in front of the Legion building, but pointing you to it. Like, I think this is cool, man. Just one of those things you don't see anymore. Like people tend to associate neon signs with like bars and like motels and things, and like they had them everywhere back in the day. Like churches had them, like lots of different places had neon signs. Like it was a big deal when that technology first came out. um Anyway, we're past the 1 hour mark. We're actually at 107. So I'm gonna end this video here. I hope you guys enjoyed the tour and at least got something out of my bitching and moaning. Or maybe it was cathartic to you to hear another person complain about stuff. I don't know. But you guys be good.